I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, June the 8th, brought to you in part by Bromwich Commodities. Tell you what, the partners and the folks there at Bromwich Commodities, I know that they're mourning the loss of Memphis Charlie McBain, because I know that they were friends and worked together at times. And get a hold of them at Bromwich Commodities if you're interested in doing anything as far as trading commodities or hedging either your grains or your livestock. They'd be glad to help you. And keep in mind, anytime that you start fooling around in commodities, you can and will lose money. But you can get hold of them at bromwichcommodities.com. The World Livestock Auctioneer Championship belongs to Chuck Bradley. A good friend of mine. I tell you what, I've gotten to know him the last 2 or 3 years, and we actually were able to go at a invitation auction event one time there in Coffeyville, Kansas for Brian Little. We got to hang out and got closer and got to be good friends. I tell you what, I call him the Beast for good reason. I tell you what, he owns the auction sales arena whenever he gets behind that mic. And he's one of the best auctioneers, I guess, that I've ever heard, including past champions. He's just fantastic, and I'm just tickled to death that he won it. You know, I remember meeting Chuck Bradley for the first time, and we got to talking. I asked him how he got started in the auction business, because unlike a lot of people before, his daddy didn't own a sale barn, and he didn't inherit one or anything like that. He won a contest, a talent contest in high school. He learned how to auctioneer, and evidently did a pretty good job of it. And I asked him what he did with that. He said, well, he was selling chickens at a little old backwoods country sale, and just drunk whatever they had. And he said, I was selling chickens one night a week there. And I said, well, when you started coming to these competitions, you know, where all were you selling at? He said, I was just selling chickens. But I tell you what, Jerry Etheridge at Montgomery Stockyards is a dear friend and a mentor to him, and just a prince of a guy there. And he saw the talent in Chuck Bradley, and he hired him on there, and has taken him into that stockyard there, and got him doing a lot of other things in there too that'll serve him the rest of his life. But I tell you what, it couldn't have gone to a more deserving champion than Chuck Bradley. He's an absolute beast behind that microphone, and when you guys that haven't heard him get a chance to hear him, you'll agree. And the reserve champion, very good friend of mine also, that I've gotten to be around several times. He actually had me out to the auction market that he manages in Idaho, and that was Eric Dries, and he did a fantastic job too. And he'll win it eventually if he keeps trying. But congratulations to him on reserve champion. Runner-up was Will Epperly, a really good guy that I don't know as well, just because I haven't had the opportunity. But the Shabans think a whole lot of him, and that would mean a lot to me. But he works for them at Dunlap, Iowa, and over in West Point, Nebraska too. But just a great contest. I really enjoy these contests. It's a good chance to you know, feature the positive things about our livestock marketing industry, and just showcase you know, how much camaraderie there is in it, and how hard people work for their customers, and how much they want to keep all the players in it that are involved, and help people make a living doing the things that they love. And I tell you what, it's a fantastic deal, and I applaud LMA for putting it on every year. And I tell you what, I applaud them and Larry Schnell, their new president, for getting in there and trying to make something happen. The meeting of truths, that I call it, that they were instrumental in facilitating getting all these other cattle organizations together, and getting them sit down at a table and figure something out. And then the biggest part of it was that they released a a joint statement there saying the things that they agreed on and the things that they're going to push forward. And I'm seeing the wheels start to turn, guys, and I think it's going to make a difference. And I'll give all the credit in the world to LMA, because they were in a perfect position to do that, and they kind of played Switzerland in the deal, and I just glad that they were able to do that. I tell you what, another thing that happened at the banquet at LMA conference there was that they gave the annual Icon Award to Ellington Peak, and I tell you what, that's another deal. Couldn't have gone to a better guy. Been in the business forever. I think he ran that Shasta livestock market for 46 years or something, and started the Western video market there, and I was visiting with him before the banquet, and always, every time I get a chance to visit with Ellington Peak, I'm all ears, and he's such a wealth of knowledge and such a great guy to be around, and he's I think he's 93 years old, and he's just he's still just knows more than anybody else. And another guy said, if I could ever learn as much as Ellington forgot, I'd be in good shape, and I would agree with that too. But he was telling me back in 1988, I asked him when he had the first video sale. He said, well, I guess we could call it a video sale. He said, we got several thousand cattle that guys wanted to sell together, and we took the buyers on a bus tour, and we drove around and had the cowboys kind of drive the cattle up there to where the buses could get to, and show the cattle, and then they took pictures of them, and then they come back to Central Point and showed the still pictures of the cattle and sold them off a catalog like that. And that was the very beginning of video auctions there, and there's a lot of arguments about who had the first video auction, but I tell you what, I wouldn't doubt that that's probably the first one they ever had, and it came to be into Western video markets, and we're proud at DV Auction to take the internet bids for them, and I tell you what, they've done a great job. And he was talking about the last big Reno video that they had last summer, and said it was by far the smallest crowd they ever had. They'd had as many as 1,100 people at one of his big videos there in the summer in Reno, and he said that pandemic sale they only had 70, but he said with the internet sales and the guys on the phone, he said it was one of the best sales we ever had. So he's hoping for a sale as good as he had last year during the worst of the pandemic. But again, I just enjoyed the LMA conference. Was glad I was able to make it out and talk to so many Feeder Flash gang members. In the East, I tell you what, I appreciate you guys that watch regularly, and I don't come out here enough, but every time I come out to Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, places like that, I just meet so many. And a little boy come up to me, and he couldn't have been 4. He'd had to have been 3. And he come up there and wanted to shake my hand, and he watches the videos regularly, I assume with his dad or his granddad, and they weren't even with him. He just walked up there, and they were back in the crowd somewhere. But just met a lot of good people, and it really kind of drives me to keep doing this report, because I feel like I'm doing some good out of the deal. And when I don't get around and see the groups of people, sometimes I get to wondering if anybody's watching. But sure thank everybody that watches these, and enjoyed the LMA conference so much. Okay, we'll quit talking about that. We'll talk about the board. On Monday to start the week, June live cattle futures down 60, 116.22. I tell you what, that's a pretty good basis for guys working, depending on whether we get the charity bids again this week or not, but that's quite a basis. And I heard on one of our group texts, somebody said, does anybody feel like there's going to be a lot of deliveries this month, with the board at 116.22, and your charity bids about 120 on the average, and we didn't think there's going to be too many deliveries if things stay the way they are. August live cattle futures down 30 cents at 117.77. Going to back months on your live cattle down 35 to up 160. There was a few up, but up 160 was the biggest, and that was your farthest out traded month of October 22. And we continue to see things to look forward to, and I think some of these big outfits that trade a lot of commodities are starting to see that too. And I've told you guys that as we start going forward, I think there's we're going to be in a driving market. Maybe, I don't know about short term, but I sure think long term, and I'm thinking 2 or 3 years down the road, and I'd want to try to keep as many cows as you can, and I feel sorry for you guys that are in dry spots that can't hold on to them any longer, but it's starting to come around. This year's feeling a whole lot like 2012. And if you guys remember what happened after that. August feeder cattle up 27 cents at 150.20. September was down 12 cents at 150.262. Back months of your feeder cattle down 30 cents to up 55. Up 55 was the only up on the back months, and that was your last traded month of May 2022. Look at some of your corn futures. Chicago Board of Trade July old crop corn was down 3.5, but at 6.79 a quarter. But new crop December was up 11 and a quarter at 6.02 3/4. How about beans? Old crop July beans down 23.5, and that always is suspect to me when we know we're in a weather market, but you got corn going one way and beans going the other. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But old crop July beans down 23.5 at 15.60 and a quarter. November new crop beans was up 4.5 at 14.40. Let's talk about your weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region. It was very light, and like I told you on the last visit, light enough in most regions to trip triggers on that 75% of a robust market deal that NCBA has. But it's mostly because JBS was pretty much completely out of the market due to the cyber attack that they underwent there, and you can sure tell by the movement there. 56,200 head sold, negotiated in your 5 area. That compares to 74,300 the week before, and 123,600 head the same week a year ago. And you think, well, we were in pandemic mode pretty hard. Well, that was whenever we had their box beef values higher even than they are right now. At those monster levels there, because we weren't able to get the cattle processed. And then your packers, which it doesn't tip their hand, I don't know what does. The packers were going out and buying cash cattle on the spot market that were available so that they didn't have to pay the big premiums that were involved in the formula deals that were tied to either profit sharing or to the box beef cutout value. So the signs are there, guys. If we could just get some investigation going, get something going to produce more negotiated trade. How about your sales last week live? Steers and heifers sold from 118 to 122. Weighted average live steer price of 119.92. So pretty much all at 120. And that 119.92 weighted average was up 28 cents from the previous week. Dressed steers and heifers sold from 188 to 194, mostly 190 to 191, and your dressed steer weighted average was 190.68, and that was down 1 penny per hundredweight, so absolutely steady. And like I said the last several times, those are completely charity bids, and I would assume that we will continue to see those same charity bids again this week. Somewhere around 119, 120 for live sales, and around 190 or 191 for dressed. Nationwide negotiated trade was only 65,700 head, again because JBS was mostly out. About 25% of those was for your 15 to 30 day delivery. So you think, oh well, they don't need any cattle for now, they're pushing them all back with time. They may be pushing your grid cattle back with time or your formula cattle, but your negotiated sales of cash cattle there, only 25% of them were for 15 to 30 day delivery. Like I said, 65,700 negotiated in the nation, 196,400 were formula, but that was over 75,000 head less than a week ago. So that goes to show you, what we were missing with JBS being in the market. And thank you, computer hackers, for going in there and screwing with our protein system there. But I sure wish we had somebody with enough stones to do something about it, rather than to have to pay these dang ransoms. And I heard early this week that those ransoms are being paid with Bitcoin. which kind of makes you wonder why would you pay them with something that's has totally to do with IT stuff rather than with a check or money order or something like that. But there was no trade on Monday at all, which is good because they didn't puke them and do a basis jump with the board down some there. So maybe they will wait on those charity bids, and maybe charity bids will be at least steady as we go forward this week. Box beef cutout values, choice cuts and select down, especially select. So we've likely seen our high on that, and we should be coming down because the purchases now are going to be probably too late for Father's Day, and we're backing off on some of those early summer holidays until we get 4th of July. We'll be coming after that, and we should see it kind of back off and then maybe come back. But choice cuts down 38 cents, 100, which is nothing, but still at 338.60. Selects were down 256, which is fairly significant, but select cuts still at 309.17, and I don't think anybody's hurting there. Your slaughter, which is important, I don't always give it on early in the week, but Monday's slaughter was estimated at 119,000, and that was 7,000 more than the same week a year ago. So that's pretty significant. The bad thing is Saturday's slaughter was estimated down, or adjusted down, I should say, because the actual come in after they got it, the update. Saturday's slaughter was indeed 16,000 less than what we had estimated. So take those off the rack there. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. And I want to mention probably first off here that at Dixon Regional Livestock Center in Dixon, Tennessee, the Riley family there, I was very impressed with their market, with the way they handle things. They're big players in the Southeast, and they did a great job hosting the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship. They're not stupid. They knew that the market was going to be good. They knew there would be a big crowd around and a lot of attention to it. So in between the first round of the top 30 or 29 was there, and the second round, or the championship round with the top 10, they indeed had a video sale there, and the reigning champion, my buddy Russell Sleep, sold those, and of course did a great job. But they had like 26 lots of video cattle, and a lot of them were big lots, and man, they looked high to me, and they sold really, really well. And I'm going to give you the largest one that I saw. All of them were eye catchers, but the largest one I saw was the Billy Craddock heifers. There was 825, or 14 loads of these cattle in one lot that sold. And what was very particular about them is they had a northern or Montana origin. Now, who goes against the grain on lightweights? But they'd been backgrounded over here in Tennessee, but had a Montana origin, so the quality was outstanding. Which it still could have been if they'd come from down here. But you know what the Montana cattle look like. But in Troy, Tennessee, is where they were backgrounded and ran on wheat there. Now the thing about them is they'd run on wheat, but kind of ran out of that about April. And so then they were going to be shut up ever since then until the July delivery, which makes me think they're going to be pretty fleshy whenever they deliver. Indeed, now it was a grower ration, but these cattle, I tell you what, they're the kind they're going to put it on. But 14 loads of these heifers weighed 8.25. No, there was 825 of them, excuse me. 825 of them, 14 loads, to weigh 800 pounds smooth in a July delivery there at 127.25. And I give you what the condition on those were going to be at delivery. So that looked pretty darn high to me, but a great sale, and they had a lot of good cattle in the ring and on the video at Dixon Regional Livestock Center, and they did an excellent job. Let's talk about your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Monday at 137.26, that was down $1.26. And you think, man, was the cash feeder market down that hard? No, but we lost Russell, Iowa. So if you remember, that's a 7-day moving average, and you go back 7 days. Russell, Iowa was the only sale barn that really had a sale on Memorial Day, and they had a barn burner. So when it drops off, then you're gonna see that on your index level, your real-time index, and your CME cash feeder cattle index works the same way. But look at your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City had 11,000 head. The ad mid-session call, and I'm not sure how it closed, but it won't be far off. Feeder cattle $3 to $5 higher. I tell you, there's a rush on these feeder weight cattle because we're not going to see many more of them in the central part of the U.S. This is the last of the weak cattle that'll be coming this week. You know, you're not going to keep cattle out on rank, tough, headed out wheat any longer than the second week of June. So this is the last of them, but you know, guys wanted to fill their pens with those cattle because they're so much more attractive to feed than the backgrounded cattle that come out of a grow yard. But feeders $3 to $5 higher, steer calves $4 to $6 lower, and heifer calves $3 to $5 higher. So that could be just who showed up there with the orders. But a whale of a good sale there in Oklahoma City. Joplin Regional Stockyards had 8,000 head themselves, and their trend was a little bit up and down too. Of course, they're going to get more middleweight calves and more new croppers in there, and not as many of the yearlings off wheat because they just don't have that far up there. But steers steady to $3 higher, heifers steady to $3 lower, so that's kind of a washout. But I actually saw the steers. One bunch that really perked to me was an individual quote out of Joplin, 65 head, 868 pound steers bring 139 and a quarter, and that's plenty high right there. Got some other individual quotes that I pulled out for Monday's sales. Aberdeen livestock sales in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Kevin Larson there, met him up at Belfouche, good guy there, and his boys. Look at this quote here out of Aberdeen livestock sales. 59 head, 777 pound steers bring 153.50. And that's dry country, guys. And I want to talk more about the dryness out there in the great Northwest and along that upper tier there. Montana, most spots in Montana, you get over into North Dakota and western South Dakota and all the way to Oregon, Washington. It is dry and been really hot here recently. And if you've got orders for lightweights, if you've got a desire to have some really, really top quality and high genetic bred cows and pairs, get you an order in up there because they are available because it is so dry. They're seeing their fall run coming right now, guys, with little bitty peewee light calves. And sometimes they come in with their mothers and you can't decide whether you should split them or not. And but I tell you what, it's a pitiful. You know, there's been just a few years back that they had a real bad drought up in that country, and having another one this summer. There's a lot of places that aren't, and I'm not saying the drought's really in the Corn Belt per se. Maybe spots of the Western Corn Belt, but it's sure up there in those Northern Plains regions in the Great Northwest. But that was a pretty good sale on those cattle there in Aberdeen. Now I'm going to show you what a fire sale is. Central Oregon livestock there. And that is Trent Stewart's sale there, and right there in central part of Oregon, and they selling their fall calves right now. 94 head of them, weighed 346 pounds at 176.75, and they'd be as good as walks, guys. And you hate to see those people having to sell those light calves this early. How about a really good sale there in the central part of the U.S. Callaway Livestock Center, not having those problems there, getting plenty of rain in central Missouri. 55 head, 834 pound steers bring 149 and a quarter. But another drought out region, and it was a top sale, and I've never talked about it before, but Rugby, North Dakota. That's north central North Dakota. Rugby Livestock there had 307 head. All these steers were in one consignment, but they split them up into loads, and they did go to separate buyers. But if you threw them all back together, they had 307 head of steers that averaged 732 with an average price of 162.69. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.